You tell people like who are in, like, I think a lot of people are getting into business, look at partnerships as a path or an avenue because somebody has a skill set they do, somebody maybe has more money and they have more time or different things. What would you say to people? Like, what are some of your partnership rules?
I mean, one of the biggest thing is because obviously you're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, right? So that's usually the biggest question I get. Right. Was on the West Coast, but for years people are like, how do you make that work, right? And one of the biggest golden rules has always been in our business that, you know, I have to trust that you're working just as hard as I am at all times, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're in a partnership, that is key. I think it's also really important that you enable your business partner, right? That you uphold them because look, we've been through a lot, right? And you have had crazy ideas over the years, and that seemed crazy, right? Until we really sat down and looked at the numbers. And I'm glad I've always been that person in our partnership where I've always been, yeah, let's go ahead, let's try it, let's beta test, let's see what happens, right? And that's what you have to do. Like, you don't get successful by following the red line. You know what I mean? Just walking real slow down it. You get successful by taking risk and going outside of the box, right? And allowing things to happen. And some things are going to fail. But honestly, we've learned from every failure that we've had, right? So anything that we haven't, I don't really think we've ever failed at anything, but anything that hasn't been truly successful to us has only taught us better in the next project that we've done. So I think in a partnership, it's trust.
I don't think we've ever run a business or started a business that didn't succeed. I think we've stopped businesses because there wasn't a longer term or bigger
right. There was no bigger plan for it. Yeah.
Like I've seen, like I remember years and years ago, we had 11 income sources, and we slowed down and realized that like each of those income sources were capping out because there wasn't the ability to expand beyond and scale that many different income sources, that many different business lines in different ways. And so for us, getting smaller was actually better. Yeah. And trying to do less. Like even today, there are literally two things that our business sells, and everything else we let go of. Right. You know, and that's helped us scale to you know 8 figures, and we're closing in on the 9th figure, which is a big number. The ninth one's a big number, right? Yeah. And so that's very different. I think one of my partnership dynamics, right, is the default to the right, and I mean the right, like default to you doing what's right, default that you're doing your best to do what's right, default to you're making the best decision you know how, default to you're taking the best action you do. I think there's one of my partnership dynamics is like no matter what I'm frustrated with, or no matter what we're working hard on, or no matter what we're going through. I remember recently we were in a marketing meeting, and 2 of the staff members were saying things to me like that they had, they believe, you wanted them to go do from a marketing standpoint, and those things were counter to what, our philosophy is, counter to what our belief is, plus they don't directly report to you. And my mind went back to instantly to that default of, I already know what she said. I already know what that conversation was because they were off on how they perceived it or how they ran it, And so I went directly deep into that. What other kind of partnership things do you feel like, you stick to feel good and continue, especially when we've been running on separate coasts?
Right. Well, it's really important to separate the rules, right? I mean, that is huge, and to allow that, right? And then again, that goes to trust, right? So kind of like what you just said is marketing reports to you. Now they can call me, I will give them ideas, but I will never give them a yes or a no. It'll say go to Dutch. But that is huge in our business, and same with the consultant. You know what I mean? It's knowing your role, and again, it goes back to that trust, right? Don't overcross what your partner is working on.
Yeah, boundaries.
You have to have boundaries.
Yeah. If you're out there and you've never read like Boundaries in Marriage, Boundaries in Business, Boundaries with Kids, if you've never read those books, and then when we cross the boundaries, which inevitably happens in business, right? It's like, how do you handle it? It's for me, it's like if I cross the boundary, I'm like, yeah, I crossed the boundary.
Right. It's just owning it, right?
It's immediate ownership, right? And that's, I think, a huge one for us too. I think immediate ownership. Like when, doesn't matter what it is, it's like,
it can be simple. It's just owning it and moving on.
Yeah. Because if you don't own it, it festers.
Right.
It festers. And that's a conversation you and I were having recently. We were talking about, hey, if you live in dysfunction, right? If your business has something that is dysfunctional, and you've learned to operate with that piece of dysfunction, right? You're never going to scale and grow your business. You've got to eliminate dysfunction, because dysfunction is just like a cancer, right? It's a seed that'll grow, it'll eat away and at the psyche of things.